Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What if I told you there's a country in Africa where Muslims and Christians have shared a rich, intertwined history for over 1,400 years? A land that became the first safe haven for Islam outside Arabia and shaped the course of religious harmony. But here's the twist. This story isn't just about coexistence. It's about resilience, challenges, and a legacy of faith. Let me take you to Ethiopia, a place where history meets spirituality. Ethiopia, a land of ancient kingdoms and diverse traditions, holds a unique chapter in the story of Islam. This isn't just a tale of migration and faith. It's a story of a bold journey where the first followers of Prophet Muhammad found refuge in the Christian kingdom of Aksum. But the journey didn't stop there. From the thriving port cities of Zayla to the spiritual streets of Harar, Islam shaped and was shaped by this historic land. Yet, like all great stories, it's one filled with triumphs, struggles, and moments that defined a nation. So why did the First Hijrah happen here? And what challenges do Ethiopian Muslims face today? Let's dive in. What if I told you there's a country in Africa where Muslims and Christians have shared a rich, intertwined history for over 1,400 years? A land that became the first safe haven for Islam outside Arabia and shaped the course of religious harmony. But here's the twist. This story isn't just about coexistence. It's about resilience, challenges, and a legacy of faith. Let me take you to Ethiopia, a place where history meets spirituality. Ethiopia, a land of ancient kingdoms and diverse traditions, holds a unique chapter in the story of Islam. This isn't just a tale of migration and faith. It's a story of a bold journey where the first followers of Prophet Muhammad found refuge in the Christian kingdom of Aksum. But the journey didn't stop there. From the thriving port cities of Zayla to the spiritual streets of Harar, Islam shaped and was shaped by this historic land. Yet, like all great stories, it's one filled with triumphs, struggles, and moments that defined a nation. So why did the First Hijrah happen here? And what challenges do Ethiopian Muslims face today? Let's dive in. It all began in the year 615 during the earliest days of Islam, when a remarkable event took place that would forever link Ethiopia with the Islamic faith. Picture this. A group of Muslims facing persecution in Mecca made their way across the Red Sea to seek refuge in the kingdom of Aksum, in what we now know as Ethiopia. This wasn't just any journey. This was the first Hijrah, the first migration in Islamic history. What makes this story even more remarkable is the welcome these Muslims received. The Christian king of Aksum, known in Arabic tradition as Ashama ibn Abjar, opened his doors to these refugees, offering them sanctuary in a place called Negish, in today's Tigray region. This act of compassion set a powerful precedent for religious tolerance that would influence Ethiopian society for centuries to come. As we follow the spread of Islam through Ethiopia, we see how trade routes and migration patterns played a crucial role. By the 700s, Muslim communities had established themselves along the Red Sea coast and in the Dahlak archipelago. The port city of Zayla became like a gateway, through which Islamic influence flowed into the eastern and central parts of Ethiopia, areas where Christianity hadn't yet taken strong root. Now let me tell you about Harar, a city that truly captures the essence of Islamic heritage in Ethiopia. By the 1500s, this eastern Ethiopian city had become a shining beacon of Islamic culture and learning. To give you an idea of its significance, Harar is considered the fourth holiest city in Islam. Imagine walking through its streets today, where you'd find 82 mosques, including 3 that have stood since the 900s, and 102 religious shrines. The city's historic center, known as Ugol, played a vital role in spreading Islamic teachings, particularly among the Oromo people, during a time when Amir Muhammad actively promoted Islamic education. Let's look at the numbers that tell us about Islam's presence in Ethiopia today. According to the country's last official census in 2007, Muslims made up about 34% of Ethiopia's population. More recent assessments from the U.S. Department of State suggest this figure is around 31%. To put this in perspective, with Ethiopia's population reaching approximately 115.8 million people by mid-2023, we're talking about roughly 36 million Muslims calling Ethiopia home. When we dive deeper into these numbers, we find something interesting about the different branches of Islam in Ethiopia. The vast majority of Ethiopian Muslims follow Sunni Islam, particularly adhering to what's known as the Shafi'i school of jurisprudence. Shia Muslims, on the other hand, make up a very small portion of the Muslim population, less than 1%. Now, it's worth mentioning that these numbers are estimates, and the real figures might be different, since we're working with data that's not completely up to date. The most recent comprehensive survey we have is from 2007, and Ethiopia's religious landscape has likely evolved since then. But what does daily life look like for Muslims in Ethiopia? From the bustling streets of Addis Ababa to the remote villages in the Somali region, Muslim communities have woven their faith seamlessly into the fabric of Ethiopian life. The Friday noon prayer, known as Jumu'ah, holds special significance, bringing communities together to listen to sermons and pray as one. But Ethiopian Muslims aren't just defined by their religious practices. They're vital contributors to the country's economy and social life. In cities, you'll find Muslim entrepreneurs running successful businesses, while in rural areas, many are skilled farmers and livestock herders. This combination of faith and enterprise has deep historical roots, as Muslim communities have long been associated with trade and commerce in Ethiopia. The geographic distribution of Muslims across Ethiopia tells an interesting story. In the Somali region, Islam is practically universal, with a remarkable 98.4% of the population being Muslim. The Afar region follows closely with 95.3%. In Dir Dawa, Muslims make up about 70.9% of the population, while the historic Harari region is home to 69% Muslims. The Oromia region and Benishangul Gumuz region also have significant Muslim populations, at 47.5% and 45.6% respectively. The cultural life of Ethiopian Muslims is rich with celebrations and traditions. During festivals like Eid al-Fitr, marking the end of Ramadan, and Eid al-Adha, communities come together for prayers, feasting, and charitable giving. In places like Harar, these celebrations take on a unique flavor, blending Islamic traditions with local Ethiopian customs in a way that perfectly exemplifies the country's remarkable cultural diversity. However, like many religious communities around the world, Muslims in Ethiopia face their share of challenges that affect their daily lives and religious practices. These challenges paint a complex picture of the ongoing struggle for religious harmony and equal rights in the country. The issue of religious freedom has been a particular concern for many Ethiopian Muslims. In various parts of the country, communities have faced difficulties in obtaining permits to build new mosques, and some have experienced restrictions on practicing their faith freely. These challenges have been particularly evident in certain towns where Muslims represent a minority of the population. More troubling are the incidents of violence that have occurred. In April 2022, the city of Gondar witnessed a tragic event where over 20 Muslims lost their lives during 3 days of unrest following the funeral of a Muslim cleric. Such incidents have left deep scars on the community and raised serious concerns about religious tolerance and security. The relationship between urban development and religious spaces has also become a point of tension. In 2023, during the holy month of Ramadan, the development of Sheger City led to the demolition of 19 mosques, causing significant distress within the Muslim community. When people protested these actions, some confrontations with authorities resulted in casualties, further straining the relationship between the Muslim community and government institutions. Economic challenges add another layer of complexity to the situation. In regions with majority Muslim populations, higher fertility rates often put additional pressure on already limited resources, making it harder for families to access quality education and healthcare. Historical patterns of marginalization have contributed to elevated poverty levels in some Muslim communities, creating obstacles to economic advancement. The delicate balance of interreligious relations has also been tested in recent years. In September 2023, clashes between religious communities in the central Ethiopian region led to the destruction of homes and businesses. Such incidents remind us that maintaining peaceful coexistence requires ongoing effort and commitment from all communities. These challenges highlight the importance of continued dialogue and understanding between different religious groups in Ethiopia. They also underscore the need for government policies that protect the rights of all religious communities and promote an environment where diversity is not just tolerated, but celebrated. The path forward requires cooperation between government officials, religious leaders, and community members of all faiths. By acknowledging these challenges openly and working together to address them, Ethiopia can build on its long history of religious diversity and move toward a future where all faith communities can practice their beliefs freely and safely. When we examine the relationship between the Ethiopian state and its Muslim population more closely, we find some concerning patterns that have emerged in recent years. One significant issue has been the government's involvement in religious affairs. A particularly notable example was when the state attempted to promote the teachings of the Lebanese Abash movement among Ethiopian Muslims. This action led to widespread protests, and when Muslim leaders and activists spoke out against this interference, many found themselves facing arrest, creating a rift between the government and the Muslim community. Another concerning trend has been what some observers call the securitization of Islam, where religious practices and expressions of faith are sometimes viewed through the lens of security concerns. This approach has resulted in increased surveillance and restrictions on Muslim communities, leading many to feel that their faith is being unfairly scrutinized and restricted. In daily life, many Ethiopian Muslims report experiencing various forms of discrimination. These range from subtle prejudices to more overt forms of exclusion in areas like employment and political representation. Such experiences can create barriers to full participation in society and contribute to a sense of marginalization. These challenges point to the need for a broader conversation about religious freedom and equality in Ethiopia. The solution requires more than just policy changes. It calls for a shift in how different religious communities understand and interact with each other. Religious leaders, civil society organizations, and government officials all have crucial roles to play in building bridges and promoting genuine understanding between communities. Despite these challenges, it's important to remember that Ethiopia's history contains many examples of peaceful coexistence between different faiths. The country's tradition of religious tolerance, dating back to the First Hijrah, provides a foundation for addressing current issues and building a more inclusive future. The key lies in returning to these historical principles of acceptance and mutual respect, while acknowledging and actively working to address contemporary challenges. The path forward requires commitment from all parts of society. Government institutions must protect the rights of all religious communities equally. Religious leaders must continue to promote dialogue and understanding, and everyday citizens must challenge their own prejudices and work to create a more inclusive society. Only through such collective effort can Ethiopia fully realize its potential as a nation where all faith communities can practice their beliefs freely and without fear. And there you have it, the remarkable story of Islam in Ethiopia, from its earliest days as a sanctuary for the first Muslim refugees, through centuries of cultural exchange and development, to the complex challenges and hopes of the present day. This journey through Ethiopia's Islamic heritage shows us how faith, culture, and society have intertwined to create something truly unique in the heart of East Africa. As we wrap up this exploration, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this fascinating subject. What aspects of Ethiopia's Islamic heritage surprised you the most? And here's something exciting. We're planning to continue our journey through the Islamic world, exploring how the faith has shaped different societies across the globe. Which country would you like us to explore next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Your input will help guide our next destination. If you found this journey through Ethiopia's Islamic history as fascinating as I did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we release our next deep dive into Islamic heritage around the world. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new. It helps others find this content too. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Ethiopia's Islamic story. Until our next exploration, peace be with you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.